Hey everybody, Dave here, and I wanted to send this quick message to you and let you know where we're at, where I'm at in grading, and what we have going on this week, and also discuss some things that I've been seeing consistently in the last 3 weeks in regards to your activity logs that are being submitted. First and foremost, everything is graded up to this point. If there is something that you've submitted that I did not get to, please just let me know. I have a number of students this quarter, up to about 140 to 150 total, and I do make mistakes in my grading. So if you don't have all your points and I don't tell you why or how you missed the points, just shoot me messages and let me know that you need further explanation, and I'm happy to do so. But I think everything's cut up, and you guys should be looking sharp, or at least consistent with what you've submitted. There's been a theme in the last couple of weeks, excuse me, around motivation, and one of your peers this week actually said that their goal was to maintain motivation. And I thought, man, if somebody's got to set a goal to maintain motivation, we got to find out some ways to just naturally be motivated. So one way to be naturally motivated is naturally at this point in the quarter, we're 6 weeks in, you got to mix things up. You can't do the same thing over and over and over. And I've actually had some nice phone conversations with a couple of you in regards to this. So how do you mix things up? Well, my first question is, are you working out inside a gym? Because if you're working out inside a gym, there's a reason they put televisions in fitness centers. It's because they're boring. So my suggestion would be to get outside and try to do everything that you are doing in a gym outside. So if you're running on a treadmill or doing an elliptical, you could go run out on a trail or do some hill work. If you're going to cycle, you can go cycle outside. It's important to also to integrate nature into our day-to-day interactions. If we are in an office all day or in classrooms all day, and then we go sit in a car, and then we go from our car to our home, or our home to car to gym, we're always inside, and we're from the dirt, man. We need to be outside and playing in this stuff, and it's important to get that as much of sunshine as we can in these gray days. So exercising outside is so crucial to sustaining a good exercise regimen. Also, it's fall, and what more beautiful time do we have in the Pacific Northwest when we see so many different colors of trees and leaves, and just the diversity of all of the senses that are stimulated right now. It's just mind-boggling. And so it's truly wonderful, and really is about perception. How do you perceive rain? How do you perceive gray clouds? I will say I perceive rain as little droplets of sunshine, or at least little droplets of, honestly, this is crazy, but I share this with my classes all the time. And whenever I hear rain in the morning, I pretend, because I like to get my exercise done in the morning, and I sleep with my windows open. So I have to pretend that rain is there cheering me on. And because if I think of it's just, gray and dreary and wet and miserable, then by golly, that's how it's going to be. But if I can get out there wearing just a hat to keep my face dry, and obviously clothing that's appropriate for the cooler conditions, I'm probably going to be okay for 30 to 40, maybe 60 minutes of exercise, because after half of my exercise bout, I'm pretty warmed up, and my face is still pretty dry. I might be a little bit wet, but my body heat keeps me warm, and I know that the end is in sight, and I'll be in my nice warm home very shortly. So in any case, mixing things up, getting out of your normal environments, including a new exercise or at least modality, like instead of just doing standing curls, for example, you could do kneeling curls on a stability ball. So that will help with balance and stability and coordination, and also you'll be able to get your bicep workout. And so you can mix things up that way, doing stability ball work, medicine ball work, kettlebell, dumbbell, barbell, body weight exercises. There's so many different variables. I would encourage you to get out of your rut, get out of your normal routine, mix things up, and I promise you, quality over quantity is so important. Speaking of quality over quantity, many of you are going for results of toning, and I want to quickly discuss one of the best ways to improve results is to be mindful of your rest interval. Obviously, you need your sets and your reps and the amount of weight you're doing, but how much time are you spending between your sets is one of the most important variables to training, at least for resistance training or doing interval work or anything like that. Interval work meaning cardio-based, where you're warming up for 10 minutes, and then you're doing like maybe 10 times 1 minute hard, 1 minute easy, 1 minute hard, 1 minute easy, something like that, where it's everything is timed, and or 2 minutes hard, 1 minute easy, or 5 minutes hard, 1 minute, 2 minute easy, something like that. So you're just mixing up those intervals just to get a little bit of speed work in, and just to change things up. Spending 30 minutes on a bike or 30 minutes on a treadmill or elliptical, yikes, I can't imagine how painfully boring that would be. But when you warm up for 10 minutes, you do 10 minutes of intervals and 10-minute cool down, and mixes things up and makes you feel a little bit better about that performance or that exercise pattern. So I would definitely encourage you to be mindful of your rest intervals and work intervals. And when it comes to resistance training, if you're going for toning, your repetitions are probably pretty high, anywhere between 12 and 20 repetitions for movement. Your rest intervals should truly be below 60 seconds. And I'll say 90 at the high, but 60 seconds is optimal. And if you're doing back-to-back exercises, some compound work where you're going from one exercise to another, it literally is one to another and then back and then again. So you're getting four exercises in less than three or 4 minutes. And so you've gotten two exercises in and under a few minutes, and you can move on to the next two, and you can do 6 to 8 exercises in under 20 minutes, and that's great. That's all you really need. Now, I will say that if you're going for 15 repetitions, then the weight should be appropriate for 15 repetitions. If you know you can do 25 repetitions with that weight, then the weight should go up. You should really try to challenge yourself with this. My wife came home, this was a few years ago, and she told me that she had squatted, I think she had squatted like 65 pounds, 3 sets of 10. And I said, "You're wasting your time." I didn't say it like that, but essentially, in short, she was wasting her time. And she says, "What do you mean?" I says, "Well, I would say, next time you do that, put on 25s. She says, "Well, that would be 90 pounds, 95 pounds. That's too much." I says, "Have you ever tried it?" She says, "No." I says, you're working your glutes, which are large muscle movement, large muscles. You're working your quads, your hamstrings. All those muscles are made for strength, and you combine those 6 muscles plus everything else in between, and you've got a lot of muscles geared towards a squat, and it's totally doable. And she came back after that next squat routine. She said, "How'd you know?" And I told her, I says, "You're stronger than you think you are." And that speaks for many people. Many people don't give themselves enough credit. They're kind of afraid to lift a little bit heavier. As long as the technique is sound and good, then you probably can go a little heavier. So I would challenge you to do so this week. And especially if you know that you're shooting for 15 repetitions, but you could easily do 20 or 25, then you need to go up in weight and actually do 15 solid repetitions. And honestly, if you're shooting for 10 or 12 or 15, by your last set, you should almost need a spot. So if you have a partner, then you should really challenge yourself and need a spot, because that's where the results are going to happen. And when you start to challenge yourself in such a manner, when you start to pay attention to your rest intervals, when you start to pay attention to different modalities of moving, such as using a stability ball or kettlebell or medicine ball, then it becomes kind of stimulating or motivating. You don't have to set a goal of being motivated, and instead you're integrating motivation into your workouts. One of my motives, honestly, is racing. I love to race and sign up for different half marathons. And so, it's more about the social interaction I get with other runners. And so that's my motivation. And those races motivate me to train so that I can keep up with those people. And I don't ever train with them, but I'll race them about every 3 to 6 months. And so when I do see them, we can get caught up on life and running all at the same time. And so that is how I stay motivated, and you got to find what motivates you. And so if you're doing a routine right now that is less than stimulating, then you got to find a new routine. So if you have any questions about that, man, shoot me a message and just let me know where you're struggling. And I can maybe, based on your current plan, come up with some ideas for you. So I think I made some notes here. So 1, mix things up. 2, and make sure you're dressing right for the environmental conditions. And then that last one, speaking of fun, also it could be social as well. There are a couple of you who sought out some people. I know one person sought out one of their friends to bring to a yoga class. Another person brought their dad to an exercise bout that I think it was all week that they were including their father. And I thought that was great, man, just to kind of break things up, include some different emotions in the exercise routine, just to change things up, is you can't lose, you know. So it truly is a win-win. So in any case, this week you guys have a discussion on something around food. You're going to be checking out a couple different resources, a couple different readings, and I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. And you're doing another exercise log, and I will say I totally empathize with submitting these exercise logs. I'm connected with a group actually in the Tri-Cities in Ridgeland, Washington, and there's a running group over there, and they are tracking miles for all of our running. All of these running nerds are in this group, and I'm one of those running geeks. And so every Sunday night we have to track our miles from the week before and make sure we upload them to Facebook. And I got to be honest, 52 weeks of this and I'm ready to tap out. But you can hang in there. All you guys have is what, 9-10 weeks, like something like that. You can finish this quarter and keep on doing that. I track myself on an Excel spreadsheet, and I just have it mathematically calculated. But tracking is really important to me, and it lets me know kind of where I've been the last 3 or 4 or 5 years since I've been tracking, and what things work for me, and what, and how I'm running and racing. So anyway, those little things kind of help. Tracking and rest intervals and all those things help maintain your motivation. So in any case, if you guys have any questions, we're 12 minutes into this baby, and yeah, shoot me a message if you guys have any questions. Have a wonderful week.